Socialization refers to the social factors in child development. It is the way in which the child is learning to become an accepted member of a group. It is the way through which most of society's codes and values become part of the very fabric of an individual's personality. The child learns the society's codes and values through interaction with its mother first, later with its father, and other significant members of the family and the group. Socialization is the interactional process by which the child's behavior is modified to conform to the expectations held by the members of the group to which it belongs. It also includes the process by which an adult acquires the behavior appropriate to the expectations associated with the new positions in a group, an organization, or society at large. In the first 3 years of life and later, the child is socialized to meet the expectation in the home. If the child is enrolled in a nursery school at the age of 3 years, the child is further socialized to a wider of teachers and peers. When the child goes into the elementary school at the age of 6, the child becomes a member of a different group with wider experiences and different social norms. After education, when the child enters into the world of work, the child has to learn behavior appropriate to that situation. Socialization processes involve social learning. Stages of socialization. Socialization is a gradual process of learning. The social life of a newborn does not develop all at once. It proceeds from simplicity to complexity. During the early stages of life, socialization takes place within the simple, limited social world. Gradually, this social world becomes broader and broader, and the child is confronted with several things to learn and to adjust. Socialization means the child's learning to participate in social roles. Hence, the main objects to be internalized by the child are the social roles themselves. In order to perform any social role adequately, one must know the other social roles in the same social system. Hence, the child must internalize the roles that he is expected to perform by himself and also the roles of the other persons with whom he interacts. In fact, the internalization of roles is almost the same thing as the growth of personality. At each stage of socialization, the child internalizes a system of roles, not just one role. Socialization consists of 4 stages from infancy to adulthood. They are oral stage, anal stage, audible stage, and adolescence. The first stage, the oral stage. The stage begins with the birth of the child and continues up to the completion of 1 year. Before birth, the child remains in the mother's womb, is in the fetal form, and is warm and comfortable. At birth, the little infant must breathe and must be protected from cold, wet, and other discomforts. For everything, the child cries a great deal. By means of crying, the child establishes its oral dependency. The child here develops some definite expectations about the feeding time. The child also learns to give signals for his felt needs. In this stage, the child is involved in himself and his mother. For the other members of the family, the child is little more than a possession. If the father or some other person provides proper care for the child, that person will also be performing the role of mother. The second stage, the anal stage. The second stage normally begins soon after the first year and is completed during the 3rd year. It is here that the child learns that he cannot depend entirely on the mother and that he has to take some degree of care for himself. Toilet training is the main focus of new concern. The child is taught to do some tasks such as toileting and keeping clothes clean. The child in this stage internalizes two separate roles, own role and that of the mother. The child receives care and love from the mother and learns to give love in return. The child is enabled to distinguish between correct and incorrect actions. The correct action is rewarded and the incorrect action is not rewarded or punished. In this second stage, the socializing agent, the mother plays the dual role. She participates in the interaction system with the child in a limited context, and she also participates in larger system, that is the family. The dual role of the mother helps the child to participate in a more complex social system. Thus, the mother represents the larger social system in relation to the smaller. Further, the mother as a socializing agent mediates between the subsystem and the large system, sometimes yielding to the child demands and some other times resisting its tendencies. The third stage, the Oedipal stage. The third stage mostly starts from the 4th year of the child and extends up to puberty. It is in this stage the child becomes the member of the family as a whole. It is here that children have to identify themselves with the social role ascribed on the basis of their sex. According to Freud, the boy develops the Oedipus complex, the feeling of jealousy towards father and love towards mother. In the same way, the girl develops the Electra complex, the feeling of jealousy towards the mother and love towards the father. In this stage, sufficient social pressures are brought on the child. Boys begin to be rewarded for behaving like boys and girls are rewarded for acting like girls. After the age of 6, the child is able to understand the sexual difference. The boy tries to identify himself with the father and the girl with the mother. When the children go to the school or mix with other children, they prefer to join their respective playgrounds. In this period, interest for learning various skills begins. In this stage, the boy makes 3 kinds of identification. He identifies with his father and brothers. He identifies with all his siblings. He identifies with the whole family as a member. Thus, in this stage, the children internalize clearly their role, the role of the father, mother, and siblings of each sex. They also realize that the father has a dominant role in the family, more dominant than that of the mother. The parents help the children to make proper sex identification. The father helps the son by showing him how to do things. For example, the Eskimo father shows the boy how to shoot. In Bailey Island, the father helps the boy to learn the art of dancing. When once the boy has learned the goal of being like men, he will tend to imitate men, especially the leader, and so is the case with the girl, who will learn to imitate the mother. The fourth stage, the stage of adolescence. The fourth stage starts with the period of adolescence. Due to the physiological and the psychological change that take place within the individuals, this stage assumes importance. During this stage, the boys and girls try to become free from parental control. At the same time, they cannot completely escape from their dependence on their parents. Hence, they may experience a kind of strain or conflict in themselves. They want to be free in doing various activities, but the parents continue to control many of their activities. In the modern society, the parents intend to give more freedom to the boys and girls to do some of their activities independently. The parents try to lessen the open expression of their emotional attachment towards the adolescent children. They encourage them to select their line of education, their occupation, and their life partners. They expect the adolescent child to accept responsibility and learn new roles assigned to them. The adolescents thus learn new roles and new behavior patterns and internalize new social norms associated with them. Hence, in the modern society, the transition from the adolescent stage to the adult stage is more difficult than in the traditional societies. In the traditional societies, all such life decisions are mostly made by the parents. Agencies of socialization. The process of socialization is operative not only in childhood but throughout life. It is a process which begins at birth and continues unceasingly until the death of the individual. It is an incessant process. Formerly, the term socialization had not been applied to adult learning experiences, but had been restricted to children. More recently, however, the concept of socialization has been broadened to include aspects of adult behavior as well. It is now thought of as an interaction process whereby a person's behavior is modified to conform with expectations held by the members of the groups to which he belongs. There are two sources of child's socialization. The first includes those who have authority over him. The second are those who are equal in authority to him. The first category may include parents, teachers, and elderly persons. The second one includes the playmates, the friends, and the fellows of the club. His training varies in content and significance according as it is acquired from one or the other source. In one category is the relationship of constraint, in the other it is that of cooperation. Since socialization is an important matter for society, it is not desirable that the child's socialization should be left to mere accident, but should be controlled through institutional channels. What a child is going to be is more important than what he is. It is socialization which turns the child into a useful member of the society and gives him social maturity. Therefore, it is of paramount need to know as to who socializes the child. The parents are the first persons who socialize the child. They are not only closely related to him in the family system, but physically also they are more near to the child than others. The mother is the first of the parents who brings the process of socialization. It is from her that the earliest social stimuli to which a child is subjected come. He responds to those stimuli by imitating them, with a wide age and experience gap separating the child from his parents. He cannot understand fully the logic and nature of all that they transmit to him. In case the child does not follow the rules, he may be coerced, because from the social point of view, the essential thing is not that the child be freed from taboo in order to express his personality, but that he may be taught folk ways and mores and protected from himself during his period of childishness. Briefly mentioned, the chief agencies of socialization are the following. Family. Family is the most important primary group or agency that brings about socialization. Really speaking, the influence of the family develops the personality of the child. Playgroup. Playgroup is another important primary group that plays a very effective and important role in the process of socialization. The child, after having grown a bit, goes out of the house and comes in contact with other children. These children form the playgroup. Due to this diversity, on the one hand, they acquire certain traits, and on the other hand, they learn the process of adjustment with other individuals. Neighborhood or neighbor. From the neighbors, the child learns about the social values and also learns the art of adjusting with others. Educational institutions. Educational institutions such as schools and colleges are important agencies of socialization. It is in these institutions that the mental traits of the children find a development. These agencies also help the children to march from darkness to light and from ignorance to knowledge. Social institutions, religious, political, and cultural institutions do influence the development of the child. These are called social institutions and have an impact on the development of the personality of the child. Due to the influence of these institutions, they acquire certain social norms and ideals. Physiological factors or physical structure. People or children with a deformed body are not able to acquire socialization at a faster pace. Similarly, a mentally deficient or imbalanced person is not able to undergo the process of socialization at a fast speed. Such people are not able to assimilate things easily. Psychological factors. Psychological factors also play an important role in the process of socialization. According to psychologists, a person acquires only those social norms that are useful to him, and this has an effect on the process of socialization. Needs. Physical and social as well as psychological needs do influence the social adjustment and social interaction of a person. In order to satisfy his physical needs, a person acquires different social ways and social lives. Similarly, in order to fulfill his psychological needs, he acquires different social customs. Other influences and need for socialization. It is incorrect to believe socialization to be dependent exclusively on the family. Other institutions and associations outside the family also wield influence on the development of a man. When the child has grown a bit, he leaves the sanctity and protection of his home to go out and play, and at such a time he is very much susceptible to the influence of his playmates. The child in the school is, in addition to the effect of education, vulnerable to the influences exerted by the personalities of his teachers and friends. In much the same way, young men and women learn to conduct themselves and to give expression to their views, such a process being an outcome of education and constant association with teachers, the unique environment and fellow colleagues. Following college education, the individual's occupations and marriage are also factors of socialization. Both men and women are strongly influenced by the personality of their life partner, and their future depends upon this to a large extent. In this way, the child in the family becomes successively the protector, husband, and father. These new responsibilities and right teach him various responsibilities. In brief, socialization is a process which begins at birth and continues unceasingly until the death of the individual. Like education, it too is a continuous process. Need for socialization. The question, why is socialization necessary for the development of the individual, is best answered by the examples of human beings who were for some reason nurtured outside society. Human beings of this kind are described by Jessel in his work Wolf Children and Human Child, and by Davis in his essays. In 1920, in India, 2 children were found in a wolf den, of which one was 8 years old and the other a couple of years younger. The second died after the lapse of only a few months, while the first continued to live for 6 years. She was named Kamala. This girl was completely innocent of the modes or ways of human behavior. She walked on all fours, growled like a wolf, and could not speak. She became nervous at the sight of human beings, like the undomesticated animals. In this way, due to the absence of socialization, she possessed none of the characteristics of human being except her body structure. She was taught to speak, wear clothes, and eat. In this way, she could learn some elements of human behavior due to the influence of socialization after a long period. Socialization is not an exclusive but a prominent source of individuals' development because heredity also has its importance. The development of the individual without the spread of culture through specialization is impossible. The self of the individual develops only due to socialization. Every social relationship of the individual contributes to this process of socialization. The problem of man's socialization is very complex and it has not yet been completely solved in any human society. In the words of Davis, the improvement of socialization offers one of the greatest possibilities for the future alteration of human nature and human society. Adult socialization. Socialization of adults differs from childhood several ways. Adult socialization is more likely to change overt behavior, whereas childhood socialization molds basic values. For example, adults change the ways they deal with their children, laying down more absolute do's and don'ts in the children's early childhood and engaging in more complex negotiations about sharing the car, for example, in the children's adolescence. But the parents' basic values regarding love and caring were formed in their own childhood. Adults can evaluate norms. Child can only observe them. As we get older, we realize that even George Washington had to lie sometimes. Children, however, are satisfied by the myth of the boy who could not tell a lie. Adult socialization often involves shades of grey. Childhood socialization stresses absolute obedience to authority and conformity to rules. But adults must juggle the demands of various roles on the job, at home, at social events, and so on. They have to set priorities, not in absolute terms, but in terms of what is the most good or the least bad. Adults know that what their parents say may not be appropriate for them. Children aren't given the option of judging their parents. Adult socialization is designed to help a person gain specific skills. Childhood socialization deals more with motivation. For example, adults are socialized to be soldiers or to serve on committees. Children are taught how to pay attention, follow rules, and to be polite. The process of cognitive development is universal in all societies. People everywhere advance through the same stages in the same orders. But the content is culturally variable. If one's culture believes that the earth is flat or that cause and effect are related to magic and witchcraft, then that is how one will interpret the world. Moreover, not everyone advances to the final stage. Many adults never progress beyond the stage of concrete operational thought and have difficulty in understanding abstract concepts. This is particularly true of people who have little exposure to formal thinking in their social environment. As Piaget comments, social life is necessary if the individual is to become conscious of his own mind. If the relevant social experiences are lacking, the mind will not develop beyond a certain stage. Conclusion. There is no single appropriate methodology for the study of socialization. The earliest social stimuli to which a child is subjected come from his mother, but the child's character is molded by a wide range of contacts with other people like father, brothers and sisters, playmates and teachers. There are three elements which play their part in the socialization process of the individual. They are physical and psychological heritage of the individual, environment in which the child is born, culture in which the child is because of the action and interaction between these elements. The process of action and interaction is a complicated one and determines materially the personality of the individuals and their status in the society. Socialization is never complete. It continues from the moment of birth throughout maturity and old age until death. The more complex the social structure of a society and the more rapid the pace of its social change, the more intensive and varied is the continuing socialization process.